Hello, everyone. If you're listening to this, you are likely in quarantine or some form of isolation. This podcast is brought to you by the Incandescent Review, a nonprofit teen-run literary magazine. The IR podcast is hosted by 4 teenagers across the U.S., and we are going to be talking about topics relevant to our life and the larger issues going on in the world. In this episode, we are going to discuss racism in general and how has COVID-19 especially affected it. So, hi, I'm Ocean.
Hi, my name is Anjali. Katie, Ethan. Hello.
Hi, I'm Katie.
Oh my god.
Go again, because I think people were
Oh
laughing.
my god.
I'm Katie. No, you just.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Katie.
Hi, I'm Ethan.
So, I know when someone asks me, how are you doing? I tend to just reflectively say good, but in reality, I'm falling apart. Like, no one is truly okay during these days, I don't know. So, I want an honest answer, guys. How is everyone doing?
I'm tired, but I'm honestly not that stressed. Because, school's taken kind of a backseat. I mean, in terms of, work, they've kind of lessened the workload a little bit, and teachers have become a little more chill.
Mhm.
And, so, I don't know. I feel like school's gone a little easier, but my sleep schedule has kind of been thrown off.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I think I've been getting a little bit more stressed just each day because we just started the last quarter of the year yesterday, and I put together a schedule and stuff and everything, and it's just a lot of pressure to follow the schedule because everyone's saying that you need to have structure in your day so that things are things, there's a sense of normalcy, and it's just, I don't know, it's really stressful to try and force yourself to stay on top of that every second of every day. But I think I'll probably get used to it.
I mean, things are going. Here, had a tornado warning earlier, but that was easy to get over. Having a structure proved to be important as it's helped me get through the days better, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We actually had a tornado warning over here too, and my sister, she's 9. She started hiding behind the ottoman. I was
My mom
that's
put us
gonna
in the
do anything?
basement.
Oh,
My
for
mom
real?
put us in the basement.
Dang. It was really crazy over here earlier. There was a lot of thunder and lightning and stuff, and it wasn't a fun time.
And listeners, keep in mind, these are tornado warnings in New York, so it's not like middle America type of stuff. Okay, this is crazy.
This is Mother Nature just effing with us.
It's a crazy time.
Is it Mother Nature or is it just climate change?
Oh, I
Yes.
think that's
Good point.
for a different podcast.
That's another
Ethan.
one.
You're skipping.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
skipping.
Sorry, I'm getting too out of pocket
It's
here.
okay. Okay, so first we are going to discuss our experiences with racism in general, because today we are talking about racism and how it's been affected by COVID-19. So,
Well, I think to start off, as an Asian man, the racism I've experienced, obviously I've experienced racism, but it's not been in as extreme forms as someone another different type of minority in the United States. So I'm not as as discriminated against as say a black person or a Hispanic person. But I think COVID has not helped at all with lessening discrimination. I think definitely there has been a rise, not just towards the general population, but I've experienced it too. And my family members have experienced racism because of Corona. I think everyone's just on edge right now, so it's I mean, I feel like in general people have become more volatile just because of the nature of the situation, but because all like the blame is being now put on Asians and like Chinese people, people who look like Chinese people. So even for someone like me who's Vietnamese, like there's still been racism directed at my family, at me and my family because of like our appearance, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, before COVID-19, well, just for some background, my father's Puerto Rican and my mother is Indian. So, like prior to COVID-19, both of them had experienced racism, and me like growing up in a predominantly white and Asian like area, I guess. Um, I don't know. I've like always been a minority, so it's kind of been difficult. But COVID-19 hasn't necessarily like made things worse for me, but or like in this sense anyway. But I know for a fact that it's definitely affected like a lot of my friends who are Asian, and they've like I don't know, it's really unfair, and it's really ignorant of people.
Yeah, historically, when there is a pandemic or some sort of conflicts going on, people tend to find a minority as a scapegoat to put out a blame on. And the media and the political leaders are certainly not helping by calling the virus like Chinese virus and all that. Oh, I am personally Chinese, and my friends were actually pretty worried about me when this broke out. So,
Yeah, there are people
Yeah,
like
how's that been?
well, so when people in America really started panicking, uh, I was on an international trip, so I didn't come back until like mid March. But like people are certainly like suspicious, like they like even people who are not careful with social distancing, like they will like avoid Asian looking people,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I mean, yeah, but it's definitely pretty concerning with like the increasing hate crime and discrimination on media. Like I heard, like my mother goes to grocery store every other weekend, and she sometimes get a little scared because of that, the other reports going on.
For me, like my mom has a similar
Mm-hmm.
when she goes outside, she's kind of scared
Yeah.
because she doesn't know how people are going to react, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so like one time she went out to, I think it was Lowe's, to get like to just pick up some masks for like
Mm-hmm.
me and my family, and like when she got there, a a woman who was also in Lowe's like started yelling at her to get out of the store, and
Oh, that's terrible.
and it was like I don't want to. Like, it was pretty obvious it was because she was Asian, and so
Mm-hmm.
like the woman followed her around and even told like the workers to like get her out. And it's just like obviously my mom isn't as affected by that because like she's a grown woman, and I don't know, like she's kind of gotten used to like remarks like that by now, but the main thing was that like it was scary for her to I don't know, it's more the threat of what could have happened, because if the situation wasn't as like if there weren't as many people around or if there weren't workers around.
When the virus was just starting to spread in America, I noticed that the decline in business for like the Chinese restaurant around town, and what just like Chinese business in general. And that didn't make sense at all because those people have been in the state for like a long time, generations, if not and it just doesn't make sense that they would stop going to those places. This is before the stay-at-home order, because the owner were like Asian or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think that it's like really sad how people don't realize that at this point it's a global pandemic. I think
Yeah.
that people put a lot of blame on who quote unquote started the pandemic, or like, who might have it, who might not have it. But like as a society as a whole, we're all facing the same thing at the moment. And
Yeah.
like it's very difficult to see, people turning against each other during this time, especially um, like as Ocean said, like people who are like citizens of the United States and haven't left the country. It doesn't really make any sense to like blame them or say that like, oh, they got the virus from Wuhan if they haven't even been to Wuhan, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a generalization based on what someone looks like, and it's not effective in any way.
Yeah. Even this perhaps is not too relevant, but it's just a small thing that irritates me. So I'm a long time Redditor. It's like Reddit is a social media that is unlike social media. And I look there because there are lots of memes and animal videos. Anyway, I have just seen a lot of memes about Chinese people eating bats, because so for every major global event, people like to make fun of it because that's how they cope, I guess. But during the whole month of March, I just seen like a lot of slightly racist or maybe just racist memes about Corona, and it really bothers me. So I didn't use Reddit for a while, just because every time I open it, I see like memes like that. So
Yeah. Even little things like that. I don't think
yeah.
people often they're like this jokes, but I don't think people understand like how much they can affect just like seeing it all the time everywhere. Like I feel like meme culture has like a lot of positives where you can like make a heavy situation light, or like make fun of like a situation like corona or like quarantine. But there are some negatives as well with meme culture, and I think one of them is definitely that people would do a lot for laughs, and even if that means like disrespecting or um disregarding a whole like group of people.
Yeah, memes are something that kind of define our generation, and it's really just comics, I guess. It's how people are like making jokes in real life, and they want to be funny, and they are making jokes on the at a. I am at a loss of words.
At the
Okay,
expense of like other people.
at the expense of other people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Don't worry, Ocean, I got you.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah, this is I guess a little bit off topic from memes, but um I know for sure another thing that's really bothered me about like racism due to the coronavirus is
Mm-hmm.
that like I've seen other minorities bashing Asians and like, blaming them
Yeah.
for this. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like as a minority myself, I am kind of ashamed at some point that I've seen like, you know, as minorities, I think that since we all know what it's like to be discriminated against, in one way or another, it's like imperative that we all stick together and we all treat each other with respect and kindness,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
we like all at one point or another, whether it's because of sexual orientation, because of race or the color of your skin, it's like, it's all the same like malice and hate that people are spreading. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, that really bothers me that, like, you know what it feels like to, like, be dragged for your race or be dragged for, like, you know, how you present yourself or the way that you were born. And,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like, if you know, like, how that affects you, think of how it would affect other people, especially in a time like this where there's just, like, a rush of hate towards one group of people. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really disappointing, but not surprising. Well, I mean, a little surprising, but not too surprising for me because history is really just repeating itself. Like, it's like after 9/11, and there's all those like Islamophobic propagandas, or like if you trace back to the segregation, like the aftermath of slavery. I mean, racism against black people is definitely a big thing right now. But like right after intense conflict, it's just really showing people's prejudice and fear, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and I also want to talk about how this pandemic has disproportionately affect people of color. If you look at the infected rate and death rate in a lot of states, the percentage of black people getting infected and dying is a lot higher.
Mm-hmm. My town, I live in a town called Hyde Park, and it's a subsect of Boston. And in my town, there's no racial majority. So white people aren't like the clear like majority in Hyde Park. And so Hyde Park is a very diverse place, and we also have the worst rate COVID of COVID positive people. And so like this is a problem
Mm-hmm.
like that I have to deal with every day. And like we see on the maps like the subsects of Boston that have the most have like the biggest majority or minority populations are the ones who are the ones affected by corona like the worst. And so uh, one of like the main explanations, at least coming from like the mayor and from like Boston officials, is less access um to health supplies, and they're more congested in general. So like the places
Mm-hmm.
that um are like more well off are not going to be as congested, and they have better information about corona. They have better supplies to deal with corona. But the people who live in places like Hyde Park or Roxbury, and they're not going to be able to like they don't have like an unlimited supply of like hand sanitizer in their basement. They need to go to the store every day. And also, we need to keep in mind that a lot of these people are essential workers, so they can't work from home because they have to be like, I don't know, because a lot of these people work essential jobs. So that's another reason why like minorities and poor communities are being affected by COVID. I think worse than other like well-off communities.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, like, another thing that you were saying about essential workers is, like, definitely true, but there are people who are working minimum wage as well, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, without giving them enough money to live off of,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like an adequate amount of money to live off of, not
Like a
just
livable
like,
wage.
yeah, the bare, like, right now it's the bare minimum, like,
But
to the
it's not
point
even the bare.
where,
It's like below the bare minimum.
exactly, which is, it's just, it's so sad to see because, like, you see all these posts congratulating these people and tipping your hat to, like, quote unquote or not quote unquote, they are essential workers. It's just so backhanded when you realize what they're being paid and what they're being given to go through with the things that keep our nation running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Instead of giving praise to the doctor and nurses and essential workers, they could really just raise the wage. And another thing that made me mad because is that when I'm scrolling through like social media or like other form of media, I know like people of color are a big part of nurses and essential workers, but what they portray is mostly like again like white people, which is not surprising, but
Exactly.
I
A
don't
lot
know.
of people are like out on the front
Also,
lines every single day, like giving us food or like taking care of us, but the media doesn't really want to show that, you know? It's kind of sad.
yeah. Also, something I heard of on Twitter, or I forgot where I read it, but someone was saying that people of color, especially black men, might not feel safe wearing masks in public because they are afraid to be perceived as a threat, or someone else may think that they are doing something wrong, I guess. What do you think about that?
I think that's
I
very valid.
definitely think that, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
that's like really sad and really like disgusting, to be honest, that our country has gotten to a point where people can't even feel safe doing something that's supposed to protect them just because of their appearance.
This country is just so like messed up and crazy that black men can't go out into public wearing a mask because they feel as if they will be perceived as threatening, which the whole point of wearing a mask is to keep them safe and keep others safe as well. And it just really proves like the whole, it doesn't prove is the wrong word, sorry. It really just like I live in a mainly white town, and like these
Same.
people, like so many of them are also denying this as well, but they were denying it. They wouldn't be forcing all of the Chinese restaurants in town to close, or even like a place where there's someone who's Asian just working there. They've been like, oh, don't go there in the beginning. It only stopped when never stopped. It only stopped because the restaurants had to close finally because either someone tested positive or because they weren't making enough money to stay open. I mean, I also live like right next to New Rochelle, where the New York State epicenter was, and that town is like primarily minorities and stuff, and it was really just a lot of like people in Westchester County, at least in my town, have always looked down on New Rochelle. We're like, oh, we're the nicer town, blah, blah, blah. It's really all just, what's the word? Misplaced? No.
Misdirected?
Yeah.
So how can we be an ally to people of color? How can we help in the situation that we're in?
I mean, my family's been doing, like, we do takeout a couple of nights a week, and we've been supporting local restaurants that are run by minorities. Like the local Mexican restaurant, we got Chinese one night, I think. But it's unfortunate that some of these places had to close. Like, the best we can do is just, for the small businesses, try and keep them open.
Yeah, we can do a completely separate episode on how small businesses are struggling during this time, how the big corporations are taking their money that the banks are supposed to support, but they claim that they don't have any money left. Yeah.
And you can like, I saw this thing on Instagram. You can be an ally, not just to people of color, but just to like people who aren't as well off as you, in like really small ways. So for example, when you go to the store, and you're shopping for food or you're shopping for like toilet paper or something like that, if you see like if you see a WIC next to like the tag, then you shouldn't buy that product, because that's a product that can be bought with like food stamps and like government money. And so like we should reserve those products for like for the people who need it, because if those products run out, then people who only use food stamps, only use government money, can't like don't have anything to buy anymore. And so like just being aware of the small things and really just paying attention, I think, is like the best way to help others in the situation.
It's also like the first of the month, like maybe the first and the second, like those things with the WIC on it are reshelved, like restocked. So maybe when you're doing your shopping in quarantine, you maybe try and not go on the first few days of the month to let the people who need food stamps to get those items, because I know there are some people out there who will just buy anything without looking at what the label says.
Yeah. And to say the obvious, like when you see someone is being rude or racist to an Asian person or another person of color, just like interfere if you can, if you have the privilege, or like stop them. Yeah.
But I think the best way is just like stay safe and like stay inside for now. That's the best way you can like.
Yes.
That's not just being an ally to like people of color, like to poor people. That's just being like an ally to like your community. I think like
it's just being a decent person.
Being a decent human being.
But like doing your part is like the best way to.
I have a question for Ethan and Ocean. Did your states put in a like you have to wear masks if you go out in public? Like order? Yeah, New York State.
Our state did
that.
that.
I was wondering if your state did that.
I don't think Massachusetts did that, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
I don't personally all the time, but I don't go out much either, so.
I don't either. Yeah. It said when you're like picking up food or you're expecting to like doing like a social distance walk, like wear a mask because you're with someone you don't live with. I don't wear a mask like when I'm walking my dog, because it's just me and my dog. So.
Yeah, my state says wear a mask when running essential errands. So I don't wear a mask when I'm going out for a socially distant walk, which I have been doing less because some runners and bikers are just really not
they're
the
so
most
rude.
considerate
They're so terrible.
people. And like, yeah, I try my best to like jump away even though they are like 10 feet away, but they're still just like coming. I was like, okay, back off, dude.
We're in the middle of a global pandemic right now. I just need you to back up a few feet.
Just because I'm person phobic. I just don't.
I was really gonna make a terrible joke. Oh my god. Well, humans are called Homo sapiens, right? So, Angela, you're Homo.
Oh no.
You can't be afraid of who you are, Katie. You can't do that. That's against the rules.
That has the same energy of whenever my friend says he hates himself, I just tell him he's being transphobic.
Listen, yeah.
Oh, also, this is actually related to racism. So, you know how I noticed that racism affect differently to like men and women? Because I feel like, okay, I only start like quote unquote passing as a male like recently, and I just noticed that the like racism against Asian people is just different when you're a man than you're a woman. Because back then when I was perceived as a woman or girl, I get more like fetishization and stuff, and like obviously just like dismissing and stuff. But like people are like sort of nicer because they don't see you as a threat. And like I was like a cute it made me cringe. I was a quote unquote cute girl or whatever, but when I'm like passing as a guy, people tend to just like ignore you completely, or like dismiss you more, or like, I mean, I guess I'm not getting dismissing more. I'm getting the same amount.
It's hard to tell. We're in a pandemic.
For listeners who are confused,
there
I'm
we go.
trans.
We
Yeah, you probably should have like started off with that.
Yeah.
maybe they don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I never really thought of like the differences like between like Asian men, like Asian male experiences and Asian female experiences, like Asian man experiences, like Asian women's experiences. And so like I don't know, that's interesting because I guess there are different stereotypes and expectations that come with being an Asian woman versus being an Asian man. So
It's a different experience, but it's just as bad. I mean, in terms of racism.
Yes.
In terms of racism, it's just as bad.
yeah.
So can we end it now? Should we?
Are we done?
Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the IR podcast. Unfortunately, Marco wasn't here to help us this time, but that just means you get me, Anjali, for the end card. Lucky you. So make sure to like, maybe comment, subscribe if you feel like it, but yeah, have a nice day. Bye.